Okay, need to do it. Okay, so we have wonderful lineup today, people from very different industries, from different backgrounds, and the main topic of today's session is buildings and user behavior. And I will start with just brief schedule. So first, our experts share their kind of ideas, insights, whatever they want. We have a free format of presentation. Then we have a little break, and then we come to the Q&A. And we prepared 2 challenges specifically to build our discussions around. So the challenge number 1 is about human-centric design, how we can bring human-centrism into designing our buildings. And challenge number 2 is, of course, Corona time, how Corona changed our behaviors inside the buildings and how our experts, all of us, somehow deal with this situation, what type of feedback we can have. And during these challenges, we will build our discussion today. So let's start. Buildings, user behavior, and service design. That's a topic of my, mostly my research project and my today's presentation. It is a very informal format. I just want to share with you some insights. And I'm very happy to say that my project is fully funded by Energy Munich, the program of design for energy efficient everyday life. And Per Lundqvist, my supervisor, he is also involved to this call, and he will also give some words in the end of our presentations today. But of course, I will start to give you words about KTH Living Lab. First of all, do you see my slides are moving? Zafira?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, good. Because sometimes it's a bug and I prefer to have it in the beginning. Good. Okay, so KTH Living Lab. Most of you, of course, know what is KTH Living Lab. It's a multiple test beds for accelerating clean tech and innovation within building industry and construction and real estate. And even most of you visited KTH Living Lab. But for those who know,
a professor in product and service design, and I well, have been working with this for a long time. I have a background as a designer, and this project, which I'm going to open now. Where is it? Is it already open? Where is it? There. I didn't know they. Yes, here it is. Okay. I didn't know I was next, so I wasn't completely prepared. Okay, so I'm going now to share my screen with you. God, sometimes this is, here it is. Share screen. Okay, so this project is called Co-Kitchen, and it's about creating a sustainable student housing of the future. So we are focusing on student housing, and particularly then the co-living situation. And what we want to do is to create a new norm for co-living. So we are both talking about norms, but not so much about behaviors, but more about practices. And we're working with the KTH Living Lab as a platform for experiments, and we're rebuilding this flat then twice. And 5 students live together for 1 year in each of these layouts. And we have these different, this is a sustainability dimensions. This is quite a complex project. So we are saying that we have the social sustainability, which focus a lot about social interaction, support, well-being in the home, but also about loneliness, which is very common among young people. Particularly when moving to a new place. And that co-living then can offer more space for social activities and social interaction than living in a one-room flat. The ecological sustainability then is that co-living creates 30% more living area and compared to one-room flat again. It also saves resources, material, heating, and we think water. We will look into that. And the economic sustainability then is price and value for the people living there, and also a management perspective, how this is for academic housing, who is part of this project. So we have a lot of partners, and these are the partners in the project. Academic housing is the main problem owner here. They are going to build 7,000 new student homes, and they need some research and to be able to make decisions how to do this. So we have architecture and technical systems then, that's theory into practice. Architectural company, KTH Living Lab. We have the product and a service system perspective, which is Savvy, a service design company, and then us, Green Leap, and also a bit Electrolux. And then we have the LCA perspective and management. And then we have people doing from KTHC, doing life cycle analysis and these kind of things. So it's really a multi-dimension project. And we're looking at the student housing as a product service system, very much like Elena was talking about earlier. So the students living together, and then all these different stakeholders around providing different services and products. So we started out with doing deep interviews with students, 23 students of 10 nationalities. And we talked about everything like what makes a good student living, what are the challenges, how does the kitchen work? We're having a kitchen focus in this project, but we're also looking at the overall layout. So we talked a lot about diet and vegetarian food and recycling and how does cleaning and these things work in the kitchen and the flat in general. And also, how do you feel in a flat, living on your own or living with people, and what kind of problems can come up? And the first insights were that there need to be established routines for cleaning, recycling, and socializing in order to make a good flat. So this quote, I think is really good here. When I moved in, they already had a system for cooking together. It was the smoothest working flat ever. The expectations were very clear. That is something that's appreciated. And there's need to be a build of trust by getting to know each other and co-create in the home. And common dinners is a key to more plant-based diet and friendship. So that is something that we brought with us to the first co-living then. So this is the first rebuild of the flat. There was 4 single flats in the beginning, and then we changed that and made a big kitchen and living room in the center. And then the students then have their own bedroom and their own bathroom. And 5 people moved in. They were from Spain, Italy, France, and then a couple from China. So very diverse in terms of nationalities. And when they moved in, here you see them, some of them on the picture, we introduced routines for cleaning, cooking, and recycling, and having dinners together right away. So we made like 5 shifts for cleaning, and also we had them to make a vegetarian meal together once a week. And me and Martin, who's also here today, we made the first common meal. And then one of the sort of shifts which they shifts every 2 weeks was to write a diary about each of these meals. So in December, we made interviews. So this question is, now that you lived in the co-living for a while, what is it like? And Adrian here says, it's so great with the persons, we have good relations. I like it very much. We are like a family. We celebrate birthdays together, says Yang, the Chinese girl. It's very nice. It's a good number of people. The atmosphere is very healthy, says Flavia. And how satisfied are you on a scale between 1 and 10? And then they say 8.4. So we wanted to know then, so what is it that has made this so good? And these are the answers we got. The dinners, and that we are from different continents. We have done things outside, but that would never have happened without the dinners. In the beginning, we didn't talk much with each other, but then we started to know each other better. And I think it was because of the weekly dinner, says Matteo. It's important to have good rules that everybody accepts the framework, says Adrian. I would say that everybody have their task, that everything is very fixed, says Flavia. Yeah, I think it was very good that you gave us the roles because it helped us to be more organized and the dinner forced us to be more together, says Matteo. It's an international home, so we talk a lot about different cultures. I improve my English a lot, says Yang. So we made, of course, there are a lot of more insights here, but I just wanted to bring up something of that because we think that it's very clear that these dinners and the routines has been very, very important in making a good atmosphere in the apartment. So the next step of the service design perspective or the service design work is to test product service prototypes, which we will do this spring. So we will test the matchmaking quiz, make an intro workshop with the flatmate agreement. That will be the next in the autumn. It's important to make recycling easy. We found that international students have very hard to recycle. They don't know how to do it and they never heard of it, most of them, some of them. And also a way of swapping and recycling furniture when people move in and out. And then we will try food boxes for easy dinners together. And then we are working on the next rebuild. So the architect's tip, explore different layouts for the next step. And then we have researchers making life cycle analysis and material analysis on everything. And we've done a lot of workshops and interviews about this. And this is the final design for the next rebuild, which will be done in the summer. And here we have only 2 bathrooms, still 4 bedrooms, also 5 people. So we will have a couple in one and they share 2 bathrooms. And then we have split up the kitchen and a living room. So we will have like a more social open kitchen and then a more quiet living room, which can also be a study. So the next students will move in there in August and we will follow them for a year. So that was a very short presentation. Thank you very much. Oops, I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I think it's really, it looks like a nice, fun project, but I know the complexity behind it and how difficult it was to place everything, regulations and so on. I think we don't just keep all our questions to the later. Now we can move to Agnieszka and then we'll move to Christian, because I know Christian also a bit stressing. He has another meeting, but we will manage it. So Agnieszka, stage is yours and we're ready to listen to you. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay. Thank you so much. It is a challenging to share. That's very interesting, but I think I need to try again. Like this. I hope that you see what I want you to see. My name is Agnieszka Zaleska-Jonsson. I'm a researcher at KTH. I have a privilege to do this research together with Sarah Wilkinson. She's a professor at the University in Sydney. The research is the consumer and occupant and behavior. And you ask why we did that. We were following the development for a while, and you have done this too. And we see that, all right, on the one side, we have the total energy consumption that is growing rather than going down, and predictions that are not in our favor. On the other side, we have the, in the built environment, we have a wave of a movement with the green buildings and certifications and the ambitions to building more green or environmental friendly. On the other perspective is the technological solutions and building progressions that we can see that we are part of. Sensors, in Internet of Things, and we are moving forward to letters, machine learning, and AI. So how we make sense of all of this? We have all this in front of us, and yet the resources are not getting there to in this direction that we want. The optimization is not kicking in really that much. So obviously, when you talk behind the scenes, you hear very often, well, we are just humans. They think about the human, the occupant. And you have heard it already from Elena and Pernilla and Sarah. Well, this is important part of the building. This is the symbiosis here. We should look at this. And so we did with Sarah, and we thought, well, there are people that are cleverer than us, and they have done quite a lot of job in this. Environmental psychologists have been written a while about the human behavior and how the human behavior affects the environmental in action. And they did a great job about that. What we have seen is that there are a lot of things that can affect our behavior, and that have been quite fascinating for us. What you can see here is manifestations, or as a few psychologists and have called it drag-ons, the manifestations that the biases that human can experience, and therefore a little bit have a harder to make a change in the behavior. We find that there is a way to put it in the categories. The first category is limited cognition, which is basically related to this, how we see the word, you and me. So how we perceive the word itself, and how we take in all the information, how we take in the signals, and how we process those information. Among this, it's our optimism to survival and our optimism to do well. The other part is perceived risk, and we do this all the time. We calculate it in the very particular way, and mathematical or not, but we take all the risk under consideration when we making our decisions. How we perceive the work from the perspective of whether we like or not capitalism, or how we see the mother nature itself. Are we as superhumans, or actually we see that mother nature will do the work it's how she wants, and we have very little to make this as a change, even if we want to. Our belief in technology advances and how the technology can change actually our behavior is one of the issues of the interest of the psychologists. Obviously, we compare each other, and this is the part of our life, and this can be a driven issue, but it can be also a barrier for our what we can accomplish. And there is no strange thing that the financial investment is a part of our decision making, and we consider this very very tightly. And it's not only about the money, it's about our effort, about our time. You can hear it very often that, well, this is the 10 minutes I will not get back again. So we have been looking with Sarah on those issues, and we were thinking, so if the human is in fact, and she is in fact complex creature, and put it into the built environment, so how can we really make sense out of this? And we thought, Sarah and I, that we can make a survey. So who can we survey? We thought this is a pilot study, and the research is supported by Formas. We thought, well, how about if we go to the occupants that actually are living in the perfect environment? So how about if we find a house that gets an A plus maybe in markings? And well, what would be better if not the buildings and the environment that has been awarded an innovation and sustainability award? Well, that is a part of KTH Living Lab. This is the Ene and Tests bed, as we may call it. And so we approached KTH Living Lab and thought, well, we sent the survey to the students living there, because if they're living in this perfect environment, this is nothing else except their own behavior that can affect their decisions. That's our idea here. So we sent the survey and we received responses, and there you will ask, well, did they pass the test? Well, yes, they did. And there are a few things that are jumping out at us. And I'll talk about a few of them. I cannot talk about all of them. But I think what is this, you may also ask is that, well, these are the students. Yes, but they are just like you and me, and they are our future. So this is very interesting to look, well, how they think, what they think, and they may not be that different from you and me. So what we can see here is that spikes, and those spikes are related to mean values. So basically, when they have answered the questions, we have put the numbers on the answers, and could be from 1 to 5, and there you have the spikes. So if it's varied, then if it's very high, if you get a spike, then we see that there are more inclined towards these biases. The first one that jumps out is the ignorance. And it's not that the students are ignorant towards the climate change of the issues, is that maybe that they just simply need more information and knowledge, and they're aware of that as well. The other issue that jumps out is judgmental discounting. We can see here technological salvation and social norm and networks that are spiking high. So what we have learned, yes, ignorance is an issue here. And I think we all can agree that it's not about that we tend to be ignorant. It's just our brain cannot test the information all the time. And we are smart in this way. We need to go back to our behavior. And maybe this is our fallout as well. We need the knowledge, and not only the knowledge generally, but we need to have this in the right time, and the knowledge that we really need. And that might be a problem. We have also insufficient feedback from the climate change, or our actions that are giving us and the consequences that the actions have on the climate change. Because in our very, 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 very fast life, this feedback is coming to us very, very, very slowly. And we need it now, and we need it quick, and we need it in the way that we like it. And whether we can visualize the change, really, can we comprehend it? That's not really clear. We are optimistic. We need to be optimistic to survive, but it may affect us. And we can see that the local environment, we are very optimistic to this, how we behave. We are very optimistic how our friends, but probably farther away, they have more problems and they are not doing as well as we are. We have tendency to discount our actions in the time, and it isn't necessary how it is going to really happen. We may be more optimistic than we think. It can be a trigger for our success, but it can be a barrier for our change in behavior. An interesting part is how we perceived our what we can do actually, how we perceived our behavior control, and this relates to the fact that we either we put the responsibility internal on ourselves, so we are responsible, we find that we can do something, or we put it externally on someone else. And that has a consequences, because if it's internal, we can see that we can drive the issues, and externally, we probably have tendency towards to putting the blame and finding the explanation why we should not or may not do something. And that allows us to make a justification. Well, it was not easy for me to do something, or it is not, you know. Well, the social network norms and networks, you see them spike there, and that is very clear that we tend to fit in. We want to fit in with our friends, to follow them. We don't want to stick out. We don't want to be the weirdos. So this can be a driving force for us, but it can be as well as something that slows us down. And here is the information that is not strange for anyone, but actually is very relevant to everybody that is working with the environment, regardless whether you are designing the building, or you're redesigning it, you're building it, or maybe you are a property manager. Relevant information matter. And if we consider the fact that we have a lot of information in our hands, the question is, what is relevant and when it should be given? We teachers, and I am proud to say that I'm one of them, and we working in the academia, we tend to say that all the time, the knowledge is the key. And they are saying, yes, this is the key. We want to know more. It is important for us to know more, but this knowledge must come in the right time. It's important to find individual responsibility. We can create that. We can help to create that. And interesting, in the COVID situation, we find that the engagement and the social engagement may have a effect. How we can do that now and how we can do it later on. That's a question to you. So what are we doing now? What's the next chapter? The next chapter is what you can bring to the table and what you can raise, and how we can do it together. Given all those technical advances, given all those information that we have, how can we help to recycle right? How can make it easier to do this? How can we make the individual to make this little change and therefore a great change in the cities? How can we just collectively find the way and support each other? There is my email address. Please email me anytime you want and make a comment in the chat. And I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Agnieszka, so much. I think it's such an interesting research, and I just read your latest paper. It's really amazing, and I'm really happy that we have access to all this knowledge you share with us. We'll ask all questions later, but now let's go to Christian, because I also know that he's a bit in rush for next meeting, and then we can have a Q&A where we will address all questions. But thank you, Agnieszka, for sharing your excellent knowledge. So Christian, stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Let's see how I can get this in place. You hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Let's do this. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Perfect. All right then. Great. My neighbor just decided to cut down trees, so you bear with me if there are some background noises, but that's life nowadays. My name is Christian, working in Nordic Choice Hotels. We were very early in the process with the project with Living Labs, and for us it's really important to understand these kind of areas because build hotels and we own hotels and own buildings. So this is very, very important. And also around the behavior processing around hotels and guests. So we're right now actually building the first zero energy hotel in Scandinavia, our new head office in Solna. So I'm moving in there in a couple of weeks. That will be really, really nice. But what I will talk about a little bit today is like what we are doing, how our guests actually are what they're thinking about hotels and their guest journey, and how we can try to fit in that journey. So hotels have always been the happy place, the place where people meet, have fun, being on vacations, eat good food, just having a great time. So it's something that you're looking forward to and more or less never want to leave, hopefully. And as our my neighbors and our neighbors, as our owner used to say, it's like the worst thing with hotels is the checkout, and that's maybe true. But we don't really see ourselves as just a hotel. Our core is the people and creating that nice hotel feeling in every part of the guest journey. And to do so, we need to understand and need behaviors from our guests. So we think that that could be the competitive advantage from now and also in the future, of course. So how do we package this then for the guests? We see ourselves more like a service provider than just a place to stay, and that creates quite a lot of opportunities as I see it, both within the hotels but also outside. But let's keep it for the inside in this meeting. So if we say that our most frequent guests maybe stay maximum 60 days a year with us, these days are the days we historically have focused mostly on, or almost all the time. But that makes like 300 and plus days that we don't see our guests. And what do we do with those days? So we saw already before the pandemic a change in behaviors from our guests. First, of course, the climate, where this 16-year-old girl teaches the world's most powerful politicians, and with the flygskam or fly shame that actually have been a concept internationally, that we saw that people were not traveling as much in the future maybe. And like 2019, I think there was the first time in 10 years that actually the number of air passengers had decreased in Sweden. And together with that, we also saw a lot of around loneliness is increasing in the world, especially here in Scandinavia, and also as Sarah mentioned earlier, because we have never been as connected as now, but we have never ever felt more alone as I see it. And I guess our industry contributes quite a lot onto these two parts. I mean, the guests are flying quite a lot in business trips and contribute quite a lot of time in hotel rooms and being alone and away from friends and family. So this happened as well. I mean, we talked already in 2019 about what will happen if our industry if guests start doing other things and stop traveling. But I guess no one of us thought that we would have that actually would happen 4 months later. So it maybe prepared us a bit, maybe not just only in the mindset, but we were thinking about this quite a lot even before. So we started then back then with a concept that we called Platinum Loser. We saw that it may not be that cool to travel as much, especially for the business, because the environmental part and the value that needs to be more with your friends and family. And now the COVID have just accelerating those thoughts, of course. So the focus now is moving even more against the leisure market and not so much for the business. We see that this is going to be probably a trend for a long time, but we're also looking much more into the local market than the travel, because we see that people will spend more time in their close environment. So how can we create that nice hotel feeling in your everyday life and not just a travel experience? and that is a challenge. So we were working with 2 personas. We saw that it was really important in the future to understand where our guests will be in the future. So the corporate soldier had historically been for like 80% of our business, and the digital nomads, as we call them, where we saw that new business were coming from. So Anders, in this case, then may visiting us just because he have to, because he needs to go in with work. But Amanda probably just want to spend some time with us because she's hanging in the bars, in the restaurants, in the spa, in her own town. So it's 2 different ways of looking into our guests. But as we see, behavior also have changed, and even Anders will probably stay quite a lot more at home, but he will maybe have the working space in our hotels in the future instead of traveling. So to better understand our guests and make sure that they enjoy the time we have with them and in contact with them, we needed to understand them better. And that's why we're focusing quite a lot right now into these different kind of ways of understanding. Services today, so many things. I mean, historically, we just saw that the personal face-to-face service is the one, but we today see much more digital solutions being just as important as anything else. So we actually trying to hand over the control to our guests and let them decide when they want to interact with us and make their own choices when they like to interact. So we started some years ago digitalizing our guest journey, but the pandemic really pushed the awareness for our guests, and they really saw the benefits of using digital solutions. So it has been a really important for us to offer that kind of safe stay in our hotels, and the digital channels have been helping us quite a lot with that. So we're giving you the possibility to use their own devices. You don't need to talk that to many strange people or different people. And at the same time, it's actually facilitating our hotels quite a lot to give them help when they now have like very limited number of staff. So we're trying to rolling out new digital solutions in many areas, and also now with the restaurants and bars and room service that could help both the hotels and guests with that. But to be even more personal, now we also in some hotels offering the possibility to choose their own room, just like airlines have done for quite a while. This will like fulfill the expectations our guests have when they stay with us much better. Some like to have the great view, and some don't like to go with the elevator or even want to stay close to them. So there are a lot of different behaviors and what you actually think is good for you. Many guests also like to skip the lines and just walk up to the room and not talk to anyone, and with the possibility to check in online or with an app or open up the door with your phone, that helps quite a lot, and that gives our staff much more quality time to talk and interact with those who really actually wants to talk. So this is very important when we build new hotels or make new hotels, to make sure that the infrastructure for this is in place. So that's why we now put quite a lot of focus on the whole guest journey, that each step in the journey is very important. And one negative experience we see that could ruin the journey or the being a disappointed guest. So it's important to know all the touch points we have. And we're now setting up quite a lot of different kind of journeys. Here is one that's actually showing the system touch points and sales touch points, but we're also looking into the emotional index and emotional touch points. Where are people actually having a good time, and where are the blind spots where maybe we need to improve? We're also doing deep dives and trying to understand really in very detailed where guests could think it's a good experience or a bad experience. So how was it? Was it easy to connect to the Wi-Fi? Was it easy to find a room? Did you find everything in the hotels, so on and so on, to really understand where to improve in the future? We also have tested things around how people are moving in our hotels, in the conference area, but also in the breakfast areas, as this one, that we saw that people, this is also how we will build hotels in the future and try to get a nice flow in the hotels so we understand where it will be like bottlenecks. And to do this, we have help with a panel that had actually been signed up for us to be test pilots. We call them the guest lab, and they help us quite a lot to understand what we should focus on in the future. So we have started to look at the change even before the pandemic, but we have been very clear to us that in short term, the leisure traveling will grow and the business will take some time. And that's why we saw also this summer that the domestic market boomed because no one could leave the country, but it was actually the countryside hotels that were fully booked from outside and the city hotels was totally empty. So we trying to do quite a lot of things within the hotels during the summers to meet these expectations. Another example is, of course, how people are working. Some are sitting and listening to the neighbors cutting down trees, but to get rid of those things, we also see the possibilities to now work in hotels in a different way. That we were starting on that as well, but we see that the request for that from companies moving away from big offices will now have effect on us as well. And we see that maybe this trend with co-working actually came from more or less the restaurants and hotels where people were a little bit tired sitting in offices and wanted to see something else and working in cafes and hotel lobbies. So we're trying to get that things back right now, and we were really early with the renting out hotel rooms that was empty. We saw it's a really good place for people to rent the hotel room for a day. They getting rid of the neighbors or the families that irritate you during the day and get a nice place to sit in a safe environment. So we see this is happening quite a lot right now, and we're looking into different kind of solution as well with retailers or entertainment or even ghost kitchen, if we can use kitchen in another way than if we are not allowed to sell it in-house. So it's a very exciting time, even if it's a very frightening time, but to see how we can change how we are working in the hotels and how the guests are actually, why they are coming to us in totally different ways than before. And by the pandemic, of course, they completely blurred the lines between work and home. So many large companies are now switching to a post-corona situation where employees see the advantage sometimes being and we see this and we have now started offering ad hoc meetings, so you can make reservations if you like to sit in an office or sitting in a hotel room, adding breakfast, adding lunches beyond our gyms and spas and stuff like that. So we have a total different kind of local heroes, so local people coming to us and spending time in our buildings instead of just visiting us during their traveling. So this is booming quite a lot, and we're looking forward to see what this will be in the future. And as Elena mentioned, in April, we will have a workshop about spaces as a service that will probably take this another step forward. That was it. Fast and yeah.
Thank you so much, Christian. I almost felt as I had a travel during this time. So this feeling, that's okay. Mark, I traveled this month. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, let's have a little break, maybe until 11:20, just very short, get some water, coffee, whatever. And then we can have our Q&A with our speakers. And also we can listen to Per Lundqvist about some words about Energy Munich program designed for everyday energy efficient life. So we are back 11:20, just have a little stretch and I will play some music, okay? And prepare your questions.
Great.